Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is your host, Mario Deniz, on the Keepin It Real Estate podcast. And today, my guest, the one and only Joe Rosa. Joe, how are you doing today, buddy?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Normally, when I do this podcast, I start off by doing an introduction of whoever I'm talking to. And I think that's a little irrelevant today because I feel like anyone that's listening to this should have a pretty good idea of who you are. If not, they can look up Joe La Rosa and receive like a flood of information. One of the things that I do before I sit down with a guest like you, we've never really met.
Sure.
Is I like to do a little background information on the person, just try to learn a little bit about it. And with you, the complicated part is there's so much. There's just so much out there. But I'm going to do my best. I want to say a few things. La Rosa Realty has grown to over 7,000 transactions per year now.
Correct.
Over 2,000 agents. And how many different states are you guys in right now?
So right now we're located in 5 states.
And Florida being your main?
Florida is the main hub. Yeah, we were originated from here in our own backyard and expanded to North Florida and Tampa market down in South Florida. And so got a pretty good stronghold of the state.
What got you started? What was the idea behind La Rosa to begin with?
Well, to be honest, I never really got into real estate thinking that I was going to eventually open up my own brokerage and act as a broker, recruiting agents and training them and so on. In fact, my family background is actually real estate development. And to take it even a step further back. So out of college, went to school, got my degree in criminal justice, became a police officer with the city of Orlando, did that for some time. And then, my father was always there saying, look, if you ever have the itch to get into real estate development, I'm here for you. And I'd love to have an opportunity to work with you. So I realized really soon that law enforcement really wasn't for me. And it wasn't like what I grew up watching on Miami Vice. So they didn't issue me a brand new Ferrari or Lamborghini. So I got into real estate development, did that for a few years with my father, learned a lot from him, developed single-family homes, duplexes, retail centers. Our office building that we're actually located in Celebration, we actually built and developed that building. And we did a resort community outside of Disney World too as well. So it was really more focused on that side of the business. And then obviously the market shifted back in 2007, 2008. So we were kind of forced to really just look at what we can do next. And during that time, which was kind of crazy, I got involved in a real estate franchise out of Connecticut that was a guy developing a brand called, I don't know if I could call the name here, but I guess I can. It's public record, right? It's Casa Latino. Mm-hmm. So it was the first ever Latino real estate franchise in the U.S. So my background, my heritage is actually Cuban-Italian.
Oh, okay.
So my mother's Cuban. I grew up in Miami. I was very much involved in my mother's side of the family, and so I understand the Hispanic culture. So wow, it's a great idea. It's a great concept, and so I looked at it as an opportunity to be able to kind of stand out in a market that was struggling. I kind of forecasted that there was some more changes coming down the road. So I got involved, did some real estate development for this franchise brand, basically, which I just bought territory and I actually just resold and I opened up different offices across the state. Did really well with that. Started going then outside of Florida, started helping him in the Southeast, and then he ended up saying, okay, I'll give you free range, go anywhere you want. So I went to Texas, I went to California, I went to New York. And we went from about, I would say, 40 or so locations to about over 110 within a very short period of time. So during that time, I really started to go around the country and I was meeting with different brokers. And, I had no background in this really. I mean, I was just basically a real estate developer. I knew how to put together, a project. Other than that, my background was law enforcement. But I just used common sense. I just used business common sense 101. And so when I would go and meet with a business owner, a broker, I was, look, how can I help you? How can I help you increase your profit? Let's look at your margin now. What can I do to help you cut some expenses and add some more value so that you can attract more agents, retain your agents, be able to help them grow and thrive? So a lot of that experience, kind of on the job learning, basically, I've really used that now into when I wanted to put together an offering for realtors. I kind of took a lot of what I learned back then and kind of packaged something that I thought was pretty valuable for realtors today. And then, of course, as I was traveling the country, meeting different brokers, starting to understand these different business models that were out there. Some folks had your traditional, very broker centric model, the old fashioned way. Hey, you come work for me. You basically get, a 50-50 split or 60-40 split. You get a few things back in return, but then that's it. And then there was obviously some of the bigger brands that were offering some more training, some more technology, some more tools, but there were still, very different splits, 70-30. They would all range, varying on the location and the experience of the agent. So I came across a few companies that were offering basically 100%, and they were saying, hey, look, this is the trend. This is where everything's going. It's going from broker-centric to what they call now agent-centric. And so as I started to understand the agent-centric model, to a lot of folks, it was just, well, give them all their commission. And, they shouldn't really ask for much back in return because they're getting all their money. So I said, okay, what if I could take it a step further? What if I can find a way, again, going back to my, little background I just gave you now, where I would meet with business owners, brokers, and say, okay, how can I increase your profitability? How can I add more value? How can I give you more tools? What if I can find a way to package a system or an offering together that would be extremely valuable to realtors? It would cover what I call like your main four, areas of need for today: your education, your training, your coaching, your technology, having tremendous value, and then the fourth thing is being able to kind of create an environment and a culture where agents want to be, where they can grow and they can thrive. So it was through that time, understanding the different models that were out there, and then kind of coming back here to Florida and saying, okay, you know what? I see that there's other companies that are offering 100% commission, but I think I could take it a step further. I think I can say, look, you're going to get everything that you would get at a big box company, but you don't have to pay for it. You don't have to give away 30-40% of your commission. You're able to earn 100%. This is your business. I'm just going to empower you with the tools that you need to grow your business.
If I was the devil's advocate, I would say, so you give them 100% of the commission. How do you make money? How do you manage to provide that support? That's what a skeptic would say about that.
And that's probably the most common asked question. It's based on volume. So obviously year one, no, I did not, I did not have a ton of cash coming in. There was a lot of, I would say, sleepless nights saying, okay, all right, this is going to work. I had to be patient. Rome wasn't built in a day. So I knew that the business model was really more of not even a year one plan. I was really trying to focus on getting, finding a way to make it to year three. And if I can get to year three, I kind of felt like I would hit my tipping point at some point. And that's what really happened. It was a struggle the first, I'd say, a couple of years. Got a little easier going into year two, into year three. But then, of course, then around, I would say, going from year three to year four, we really felt like we were hitting our groove, and we were able to create now a name and a brand, and allowing agents now to see that, listen, this company really does truly offer what they say that they offer. One of the things that I'm very proud of is that most of our growth is organic. So, and that takes time. So it was definitely a long-term plan.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that I like watching in the industry is when people come in with innovative ideas. And it's not so much out of pressure because, it's like doing the right thing when everybody's looking at you. Is it really doing the right thing, or are you just trying to make sure that you don't look bad to those people? What you did was a little differently because at the time there was not pressure on brokers to really give out more because that's not what the race was.
Right.
And even today, fast forward to 2019, there's still, companies that have been able to sort of flip the script on this whole agent-centric thing,
right,
and say they're agent-centric while taking a lot of money from their pocket. So is it really agent-centric if you're not keeping most of your paycheck? Like, how do you reconcile those two things? How do you reconcile your style of being agent-centric and when another company says we're agent-centric, but $20,000 is the price of admission?
Well, that's a great point. I mean, there are definitely multiple versions or multiple definitions of really what is agent-centric, and that is a name or term that's used very loosely in today's day and age. I go back to there's really four reasons why an agent is going to look to join a brokerage, whether they're looking to transfer their license or looking to go someplace for the very first time. Education, coaching, support, technology for sure. And, obviously the culture, they want to be in an environment where they can thrive. But the third, I mean, I kind of went out of order there because number three really to me is going to be value. And so, it's really not up for me to define really what is agent centric. It's for the agent to define. They have to look at what is it that they need. It's where they get the greatest value. So again, we go back and, all the things that we've incorporated into our brand, it's always about the agent. What can we do to increase the value? Because the way we look at it, there's somebody else that's going to be coming along trying to, do what we're doing and trying to add, as much value. So we always want to be kind of ahead of the curve and how we can really always be something that the agents are always going to want to go to because they get the greatest value.
So you didn't just come up with a 100% thing and go to sleep and said, that's going to take care of it. You said, that's the beginning point. That's where we start. And from there, we're going to tweak and tailor and modify until, to make it always worthwhile for the agent.
Absolutely. There's always a need for growth. And so, we can never be complacent. We can never feel like, all right, hey, we made it. We got a good system in place. Let's just go with it. We always have to be looking, how can we continue to add value? And plus, look, let's be honest. I mean, the landscape around us is shifting, right? It's changing. So we have to always, from our technology, within the last 6 months, we've had made major enhancements. Now, I could have sat back and I could have said, you know what? I'm doing good. I'm happy with my margin right now. I don't need to do much, but you know what? We took a risk, and we ended up obviously increasing our expenses. We obviously decreased our margin because we knew that we had to, again, be able to prepare now for the future and to be able to continue to add value, put in the right systems because the landscape around us is shifting, is changing.
What are some of those changes that you see that motivated you to take action?
Well, I've gotten a lot of criticism lately for being somewhat vocal.
Not here. This is the Keeping It Real Estate
All
podcast,
right.
not the Keeping It Quiet podcast. That doesn't do very well.
All right. Well, look. So,
and by the way, I don't mean to interrupt you, but part of the reason I wanted you to come here is I've seen some of your postings and some of the criticism,
right.
And what I say to people is, social media is not the best place sometimes to elaborate an idea.
Sure.
Because you have a limited amount of space and words to kind of get your message across. Even if somebody reads through the whole thing, it's not a good way to explain a thought process. And so I really like where your mind is at after reading your book. So go get one. This is the plug for the book. And we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive in some of the points here. But after reading your book, I really understand sort of where you're coming from, with the way you approach your brokerage and what you're trying to do for the agents. And so if guys like you are not vocal, meaning sort of the captains of industry, if you will, if you're not vocal, I mean, no one's going to be vocal because no one listens to the little guy and the microphones and the shows. And that's only handed out to a handful of people. So, I appreciate that you're vocal. I appreciate that you kind of sort of put it on the line and say, you know what, I'm going to state my opinion. I'm going to state sort of where La Rosa stands, and I'm going to draw a line on the sand. Because in past times, I've seen companies do that and say, we're going to draw a line on the sand. So like, for example, our vendors are, we love our vendors. Our vendors are the best. And then we go out and open a mortgage company the next year, and we're trying to cut the head off, and we call them the tail of the dog.
Sure.
So if you do that, that's double speak. But if you do the way you're doing it, which is, listen, I'm going to put out my ideas, my thoughts, what I think should be happening with the agents, and I'm going to be transparent about it. I love that, man. And I want you here also for that, so you can elaborate on that and explain why have you become more vocal in social media. Because your Facebook went from like family pictures and vacations, which you have a beautiful family, by the way, to like, some a little bit more, hot sauce. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So tell me about that.
So, I've been blessed with obviously the size company that we have today to be invited to get on different committees within NAR. So I sit on several different committees. I'm a co-chair of the Top Brokers Committee for Florida, for FR. I'm also in the top 75 brokers in the U.S. on NAR's committee there too as well. So I attend all these different legislative meetings at the annual NAR conference. This year will be coming up in San Fran. So I sit in these meetings and I listen to kind of what are some of the hot topics. And, lately it's obviously now it's this shift in the market, in the landscape around us. And I'm always got to be careful with that. When I say shift in market, I'm not referring to it going from a seller's market to a buyer's market. That's a whole other topic. Topic is really how we are going to be doing business today. How are we going to be doing business 6 months from now, 12 months from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? And I think that we're having major changes now occur around us, and some folks are not even paying attention to them. And, so if you go back, let me kind of backtrack a little bit. You go back, call it 10, 15 years ago. If anybody off the street wanted to buy real estate, what did they do? They went out and they found a realtor, right? A realtor was always going to be the first point of contact. Well, then we started to see now I would call it the introduction of technology, and now being offered to consumers. Now they have it at their fingertips, but then as well as realtors now have all of these additional tools now available to them to help them with their business. So we went from just a realtor being the realtor, the only person, to now the second phase with the realtor really now needing to have technology behind them to be able to help them with their business, whether it's a CRM, whether it's a way to market themselves, market their listings, whatever be the case. Where we are today is we're really kind of experiencing kind of an industrial revolution within real estate, where now it's really about technology first. And so, now consumers want everything literally on demand. They want everything like literally hit a button on their phone, and they want results. They want numbers. They want information. They want to set an appointment. I mean, look, today I can order my groceries right here when we're done with this and have it at my house in the next 45 minutes. I could buy a car online. I could even take my kids to the doctor online if I really need to. So we're seeing a shift now. We're seeing a huge change. So my frustration really has been that being involved, again, I know I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but since I'm a director, but through NAR, sometimes they have their blindfolds on. They're not really seeing what's going on. And we have these different companies out there that they're trying to go consumer direct. They're trying to cut out realtors. They don't see the value in what a realtor brings to the table. And so, technology now is going to be, instead of a realtor relying on technology, technology is going to be in the forefront, 100%. It's already, and some folks can make the argument that it's already happened today. I think now where things are going is now, I don't think that there's going to be a complete cutoff of realtors. I think there's still a need. This is, for some folks, could be their biggest financial investment they ever make in their entire life. So there's still that need to have a human being there that they can talk to, that they can trust, they can feel comfortable with this, transaction and so on. So the problem, though, is that what I'm seeing is some folks don't want to accept this. And I think that you're going to see a huge amount of realtors and real estate companies be basically pushed out of the market because they didn't want to adapt. They didn't want to prepare themselves. They didn't get behind the right technology. Because companies, and the biggest argument, I know I've been vocal about it, about whether or not, what's Zillow's true intention? Are they looking to come in and go consumer direct? I mean, I've sat on different committee meetings, participated in different, meetings, and I've heard directly from even the CEO of Redfin, where he got up on stage not too long ago when I was in California and basically said, yeah, we're coming out with a product to basically eliminate buyer agents. And so we have to be mindful of that. We have to kind of know, okay, look, this is what's going on around us. And then what can we do to really present the value that we have to offer? And what kind of technology can we align ourselves with? So, I'm really curious to see how it's all going to play out over the next 12 months. This is not something that's down the road. This is not 5 years from now. This is happening right now as we speak.
Yeah, it's definitely real time.
Mm-hmm.
This is not in some distant future. When we say the people, the directors or whatnot, have blindfolds, the only thing that I say that can be a little nuanced about that is a lot of the changes don't happen everywhere in the United States. Like, I talk to agents in other places about
Sure.
iBuyers. I'm in some of the national groups, and there's places in the country they've never heard of an iBuyer, any of them.
Right.
Not one of them, they haven't heard of them. And so, so those guys are like, oh man, you guys are alarming people for no reason. And I'm like, no, trust me. I'm in
Sure.
Orlando. For some reason, we are the test bed of every one of these platforms. They all want to come to Orlando and figure out if this thing works or not. So I think I don't know if they do that because of natural scaling within a company that they have to start small and go bigger, or if it's a sort of like keep part of the country ignorant and let's push changes in some areas and then it kind of trickles down.
It's a combination of things. I mean, they have to test it out. They want to see how it's going to be accepted, how folks will actually, be able to really take advantage of it. And look, Rome wasn't built in a day, so you're not going to see basically where just one day we wake up and now call it Amazon is selling homes and they're officially now trying to cut out realtors. But what you'll see is that hey, there's they're testing this in Seattle, Washington, or they're testing this in Houston, Texas, or in Phoenix, Arizona. And I think part of the problem though is kind of what you said though is that some of the folks that are higher up within NAR, they are from all over the country, so they're not being affected. They're not seeing this. Some folks are, but some folks are not. So, and then look, there's the other term that's used loosely that we really haven't talked too much about, and some kind of argued that that's what I did when I first came into the market was, hey, this is just another disruptor. Right?
That term is one of my pet peeves.
Yeah, and
because you can't be a disruptor if you don't change the way something happens.
Right.
Like just having a new brand or just having a new name or a new company or offering a new park within the same rules of the game doesn't make you a disruptor, just makes you another player playing within the same bounded rules that we were all playing with.
Right.
You are a disruptor because you introduced the 100% commission. So while everybody else is trying to justify value in $15,000, $20,000 for 70% splits or whatever everybody else was doing, you decided to bring the 100% deal and provide all of the added value.
Right.
Because the criticism of the 100% was always, well, they offer 100% but you're kind of on your own.
Right.
And I'm like, maybe, but that's not the case across the board because I see what you're doing and that's not the case. I mean, there's a few brokerages now that have gone to the 100% model that provide enough value to the agents. But what I have noticed is the companies that are taking $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 from agents, those companies don't want to have a conversation about commissions. They don't want to have the conversation that needs to be had, which is, hey, if commissions were pretty much 3% across the board back in 2010 or 2011, and they're now 2.5, 2.6% across the board, agents have taken a 50% productivity cut out of every one of their transactions.
Right.
And so why should they be paying the same amount of money? By the way, especially when these companies, the technology that they offer, it's not up to par to what the market demands. So you have agents and companies that are charging a bunch of money, and then they are having to go out and buy a system that's separate to be able to have a lead funnel that works for a team, for example, just to mention one of many. So, it's a very... That's the thing that I'm sort of passionate about. You can't be agent-centric if you're not willing to have the conversation about how do you cut what you're charging the agents at least proportionally to the pay cut that they see on the street. Like, why can't that be a simultaneous thing? And also, what is that money being used for? Because part of the problem that, in my experience being in one of those companies, part of my problem was, okay, so you take my money, in my view, because you think I'm too stupid to invest in myself, you don't think I'm capable of knowing what is it that I, for me to be able to shop for the things that I need. But then you're not really investing it on anything that I use. You're investing it on more staff and more space so you can recruit more agents to pay more money to get more staff and more space to recruit more agents. And it's this sort of like snowball effect where it becomes a recruiting machine to bring agents in, but the agents that are inside producing don't see the benefit from that. Like if my broker tomorrow brings 30 agents or 40 agents or 50 agents, listen, good for him, but it doesn't really affect me in any way, shape, or form because I don't believe that having, like the name of the brand on the sign, I don't really think that makes any difference to the consumer. No one ever called me and said, hey, Mario, I want to talk to you because you are ABC Brokers or whatever, know. It was always like, hey, Mario, I want to talk to you because you sold the house to my friend, my neighbor, And so, the brokerages, they've gotten this ego about them that they think they say it's agent centric, but it's all broker centric because all the the money's going back to them.
Right.
And then what they say they provide in terms of value is really just telling people they're not smart enough to know how to invest their own money.
Sure. Sure. Totally agree. And just to go back earlier to what you said, so I would love to take claim that I came up with the 100% commission concept. I didn't. I just elaborated on it. I just found a way to kind of try to add more value and still offer you 100%. But yeah, listen, I'm really curious, like I said before, to see how everything is going to really kind of play out here over the next 12, 18, 24 months. Because when we see more of these different companies out there, like a Redfin, that in different markets, I have a good friend of mine who's a broker in Virginia. She was impacted 2 years ago with Redfin. They came in basically and were offering discount listing. And so now they're where she was going and trying to get 6% commissions on her listing. Now you have Redfin coming in and basically doing it, either at a flat rate or at like 1% and then offering a co-broke out the other side. So that dramatically changed how she was doing business. So that cut the margins. So you're going to see that. They're coming here. They're already in Florida. You're going to see more companies like that. And then if some of these other players out there that are trying to go consumer direct, if they start to pick up more momentum, you're going to see obviously commissions definitely change.
Yeah, and I think the conversation needs to be centered about one part, and is this affects the consumer in a negative way, not in a positive way. Going consumer direct doesn't affect the consumer in a positive way. It's not, things don't live in a vacuum. A real estate transaction doesn't live in a vacuum where you remove the agent and nothing else gets affected. If you have a company that is, like you have some companies now that are off MLS, they're only listing the houses. Well, you have less eyeballs on the house. That's a simple function of marketing and economics. You're not going to have the same competitive demand for the house if it doesn't have the most eyeballs. So that's one of the things. But there's so many different aspects of these companies that affect the consumer in a negative way. Because if you go, it's like going for sell by owner. You go flat fee brokerage. Well, do you know what the customary repairs are on an as-is contract as a consumer? Probably not. And someone's going to host you.
Sure.
As an agent, I love running into one of those sort of sell-assisted programs where the seller just paid like $299 to get the home in the MLS, and I get to negotiate directly with them.
Right.
Because we're in for a treat. I mean, we're going to have fun. Because, listen, I'm not doing anything differently, but the fact that they don't have representation on their side puts them at a gigantic disadvantage because they just don't know.
Absolutely. But look, here's what's happened is that the perfect storm has kind of come together that's allowed a bigger opening for some of these other companies, some of these tech companies and other so-called real estate companies to come in now. Because look, let's just be honest. Some realtors are not really doing their job.
Oh, it's self-inflicted.
It's absolutely. They're not showing what their value is, that they can, what they can do, how they can help in this process. And sometimes, unfortunate when things are going well, people get lazy. They get, they just put the home on the MLS and they expect that's what's going to sell the property. They sit down with folks and they don't spend the time to go through the contract. Or some folks, I hate to say it, some realtors just want people to just get into a deal, right? So they're just looking at the commission. And so, and NAR, I think, has done a good job now recently of trying to put together different programs so that they can get folks to get more, I would say, certain designations that they can get now and obtain that would kind of show their professionalism, because we've really been missing that, So if you want to make the argument that we deserve to stick around, well, you better show why. You better put that on display.
Yeah, and it has to be put in a meaningful, tangible way.
Sure.
The problem with a lot of what we've done in our profession is that it's smoke and mirrors. Mm-hmm. Well, why should I pay you this much? An agent are like, because I handle the marketing. No, be specific. What marketing? What are you doing? How much money are you spending? Do you know how much money you're spending on each listing? Because I do. But does every agent know? Like, are you committed to telling someone how much money you're going to spend to market it? If you're going to do flyers, if you're going to do social media advertisement, how many eyeballs are going to get on that house? Are you doing open houses? Are you not? Be specific about the value that you provide, and then show your track record to say, hey, by doing these activities that I'm telling you, I've gotten homes sold in X amount of time. This is my, the ratios of list to sell price of my listings. And I think in the measure that we can become very specific about that, then we can definitely, the consumer will see more of the value that we bring to the table. Part of the problem is, like you said, there is a not insignificant number of agents that don't do that. There's a non-insignificant number of agents using their cell phone, which is not even the latest iPhone, to take pictures of their listings.
Right.
A non-insignificant number of agents that do no marketing whatsoever besides putting the house on the MLS. And so, we are fighting the tech companies, but it's a self-inflicted thing. So we're also within our own community.
It even comes down to answer your phone.
Right.
Respond to a client's inquiry, respond to an email, and so I think it's lack of professionalism can really be, their quality of service, but it's just some of the simple things, and I think as we see this trend now where folks want everything literally on demand, they want to hit a button, they want numbers, they want results. Well, you got to answer your phone. And I can't tell you, it's one of my pet peeves as a broker is when I have an agent that, I get a call on an agent that they're not responding back to either another agent or even a client. I can't tell you. I mean, we don't do a whole lot of it because that's not really what our model has been. We ventured a little bit into now lately, developing some leads and creating a lead program. And, we give a lead to somebody. Say, here you go. Here's a buyer ready to go. They're already pre-qualified. I can't tell you how many times and this hasn't had to happen a whole lot, but there's been a few times where we assign it to somebody and they don't immediately respond. They don't immediately call that person. It's like, yeah, but you're the same person complaining about that you're not growing your business,
right.
So, I think that's also part of the problem too as well.
What's your take on, this the structure that some people adopt, that is this giant teams that have very specialized sort of operations where the buyer's handled by one person, the seller's handled to another person, the contract, once it goes under contract, gets assigned to another person, then there might be an assistant or a marketing, the consumer ends up talking to 6 or 7 different people to the transaction. What's your view on that?
Well, listen, real estate is all about relationships, right? So, folks don't want to, if they select to work with a particular realtor, they want to work with that realtor. And so my experience is that it's not well received from the consumer side when they're being passed on to 4 or 5 different people. If you're going to have somebody help you from, say, called contract to close, helping with getting some of the things coordinated, like your inspections, appraisals, all that stuff. And that's I would say is, in my opinion, more acceptable. But I have seen it where some folks have created like an assembly line. And I think they're losing that human touch feel to it because people do want to have somebody. Again, look, I said it before, real estate for some people is the greatest investment that they're ever going to make financially. Majority of people, right? So they want to know it's like, I always compare the stock market, right? So I can go online and I can find different platforms to invest, but you know what, if I'm going to make a serious enough investment that's going to be for my family and for our future, I want to be able to talk to somebody. I don't want to feel like every time I call, I'm calling and talking to somebody different. I want to know who I'm working with. If I'm calling you, Mario, I want to know exactly, what's your take, what's your opinion. I want to feel that level of comfort. So I'm not really a big fan of it. I think that some people have done a decent job with it. Of course, they've had great success. But I think at the end of the day, I think you lose a little bit of that human touch.
How do you feel? You touched on earlier, that part of your mission was not just to create an agent-centric culture, but to do it in a way that instigates retention of talent. Retention is not a word that's often used in real estate.
Right.
Recruiting is one that's used very often, but retention isn't.
Right.
And I've always wondered about that because I always thought that, if you can retain good agents, your future's carved out. I mean, retention is the key to almost any, I take most of my life lessons from my dad, a 6th grade dropout, who just worked his way until owning businesses and, and all of that. So for my dad, the key to success was always, and he would always say it was, if I find a good employee, I make sure that he can never leave. So he would give them maybe a 5% ownership on the company.
Right.
Maybe I find a way for them to never leave you. Mm-hmm. And so But in real estate, retention is not a thing. But you mentioned that. What's your focus on retention? How do you think you're doing in that regard? And
So retention to me is equally as important, or if not even more important than recruiting, right? So if retention kind of, is number two on your priority list, then what's going to happen is you're just going to recruit, and you're going to spend a lot of money kind of onboarding, bringing on agents, and then they don't survive, they don't stay with the company. So, our focus over the last couple of years really has to, shift now and make sure that we're retaining the agents that we want to retain. And that's the key too as well. So we do things a little bit different than your traditional, call it 100% real estate company, where we let agents go. Agents don't meet or don't fall within our criteria. Again, I go back to a certain level of professionalism. If we don't feel like they're taking this job serious and they're not taking the fact that they're a realtor serious, then we don't want them out there representing our brand as La Rosa, because it takes just one rotten apple to ruin the entire batch.
especially in the age of social media, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we put together even a coaching program within our company, which is, again, very unorthodox if you're a traditional 100% real estate company, because we don't always offer 100%. So brand new agents got to go through a training program. They're required to work with the coach. They're required to attend weekly sessions. They have to do different assignments. And then if they don't meet those requirements, then they're let go. So
Yeah, so you don't run the gym membership model where
no.
you have 300 agents, hanging their shingle with you, and you just collect 60, $70 a month, and.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to somebody today, and they had pulled some stats. Someone that's looking to join our company and actually help us in a leadership role. And so she's very involved with FR, with Florida Realtors. So she obviously is very conscious of the fact that whoever she tags herself with, she wants to make sure it's a very well, represented company and good standing and so on. So she had pulled our stats, and we were actually showing as of today, I think in 2019, as the number 5 company in the state of Florida. And so I kind of got the impression that she was basically kind of asking, well, why are we not number 1, right? I said, well, look, I can be number 1. I can literally snap my fingers and say, look, you know what? Anybody that wants to join, come on in. Back in the day, and listen, we were guilty of this. I'm not going to lie. When we first started talking about retention, I suffered with retention. I mean, we did not do a very good job, because we were just basically, if you had a pulse, you had a license.
It's like, fog this mirror.
Yeah,
you're in, buddy.
You're in. Come on in, right? And
Well, but good for you for admitting
Yeah.
that, because I have that criticism of many companies,
Right.
and they always have an excuse. They never own up to it and say, yeah, we kind of did that, or we do that, and this is why we do it. People are like, no, how dare you talk about that? Close the door, and it's like, this is what I like about you. You are a normal human. You are a normal person
Right.
that is growing a business, and the thing that's important is the pains or the lessons that you've learned along the lines. You're sharing them,
Sure.
the good and the bad and whatever is in between. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No worries. I mean, it's
So you were hiring dead bodies. Go.
Yeah, I know. So, we learned right away, not since not right away, we learned after a couple of years that, you know what, this is probably not the best way for us to go, because, it's great that you can recruit, 60, 70, 80 agents, but if you're recruiting 80 and you're losing 65 or 70, it's just not worth it, So we definitely wanted to kind of create more of an interview process. We wanted folks just to, folks would literally, and in fact, one of our websites just even recently we found still had it where you can literally complete the package and send it in. And we had to respond back saying, well, no, wait. We have to meet you. Come in, talk to one of our team leaders. Let's get to know, what are you looking to do? What do you want to achieve in real estate? And see whether you need to go into our coaching program or whether you could go right into 100% and so on. So it's been a learning experience for us for sure. And, like I was talking to somebody today, it's still going to be a learning experience. I know that, and now as we kind of turn this next corner here in the evolution of La Rosa, as we start the franchise, there's going to be a lot of learning for us here in this aspect as well.
So that's where you're going. You're franchising out.
We are. We announced it a couple months back that we were going in this direction. We just started franchising here in the state of Florida just this month. So I would say about half of our locations that we have will be converted. I got 4 that are actually 5 now that have actually converted over. And then we kind of created a kind of a timeline.
Are you going to keep any?
Yeah, no, we'll definitely keep. I'll keep obviously Celebration where we're based out of, and I'll keep a few. St. Cloud, I'll keep because that's also my sister-in-law's office, so that's family. I have some locations down in South Florida that I'll probably keep as well. So we're excited with this. This is an opportunity for us to, to definitely be able to grow and to be able to do things that we haven't been able to do before.
When you guys offer the sort of your commission structure,
Sure.
can you dissect that a little bit? Someone listening to this, that's their interest is piqued about La Rosa. What's your commission structure look like, and what are some of those requirements that you're talking about for someone that wants to be in La Rosa?
So an agent that has closed more than 3 transactions in the last 12 months, right? So we have some folks that maybe have closed 1 or 2, or maybe they closed 3, but it was 2 years ago and they went into timeshare. So then they wouldn't qualify for 100%. So you have to close at least 3 deals in the last 12 months. If you've done that, then you automatically will qualify to be able to go right into 100%. If that's the case, you just basically pay a monthly fee. It's $50. You get all of our systems, all of the technology that we offer, agent websites, CRM, social media marketing, transaction management systems. I can kind of go on and on. So a lot of good stuff that really doesn't allow you to be able to thrive in today's market. There is a transaction fee. Now, we present the transaction fee to our consumers. So some companies will charge a fee to their agents and still charge a fee to the consumer. We don't. It's a fee automatically that goes to the consumer. I do give our agents, though, the option. If they don't feel comfortable charging that fee or passing that fee on, then that's fine. They can just take that fee out of their commission. So the only other fee that we have is every January, typically at the beginning of the year, we do an annual membership fee. That's $50. So we try to make it as inexpensive and really give every dollar back to the agent so that they can truly be able to spend it where they feel.
Wait, you don't think you're smarter than every one of your 2,000 agents, and you know better than them where to spend their money?
No, listen, there's times where it's like, listen, why don't you do this, And I do have some pretty creative conversations with folks that are open to hearing. But no, we want them to be able to choose. We feel that the tools that we provide are amazing tools. And, if you were to go out as an independent contractor, as an agent, if you were a standalone brokerage, in fact, we even have had standalone brokerages roll into us because they really can't offer what we're offering. We can do it because of volume. We have so many agents that, we get better deals and we can make it where it's very affordable. But if an agent went out there and took everything that we offer, they're spending thousands of dollars every month just to have what I offer for $50.
And one of the things that you mentioned in one of your Facebook posts that sort of hit home a little bit, because is something that I've been preaching into the air for years, but no one really listens, is the model that you guys have is very beneficial for single agents. And if someone has a team, it's very beneficial for everyone on the team.
Right.
Oftentimes, the heads of the teams are not that, they don't like it as much because they perhaps benefit a little bit less from it.
Sure. So that was a controversial post that was out there not too long ago. So yeah, there's been a lot of news of some teams that have transferred over to other brands, and really for that team leader, it makes sense because of how that model was set up, right? They're going to be able to generate additional streams of revenue coming in now to them that they're almost kind of like double dipping. But for the individual team members, I mean, really, what's the benefit to them? Right? What additional extra added values given to them? Are they going to be able to make more money now, or is it a better split for them? And I'm not here to kind of dig deep into what some other teams are doing, but I mean, we wanted to be able to create a plan, simple, where it just makes sense for everybody. And we do have really good teams within La Rosa. And those teams add additional value. They provide, a different maybe set of tools. Maybe they generate their own leads and so on. So there are teams that are able to really truly thrive because we're giving you so much more, and you can pick and choose what you want to do with that.
Well, and I think it's a matter of looking at things from a different perspective. The original perspective of the team is sort of an outdated model, and it was relevant at a time, but things have changed. We've talked already about sort of commission compression, the cost per lead increasing. So why don't the teams have these conversations? Because like what you're saying, what's the added value for the team members? I'll tell you one thing. the hardest thing to find in real estate today days is a reliable, consistent buyer's agent.
Right.
And if you're a buyer's agent right now listening to this, who does very well, but you don't think you're getting paid enough, go ask for an extra 5 or 10% and you'll get it, because you're irreplaceable. And
Right.
so, the team was originally like, you have to list to last. But over the last year, 18 months, buyers are king.
Sure.
If you know how to work with buyers efficiently and quickly and get them under contract, you're able to grab those online leads that are out there that have no loyalty to anyone and make them loyal to you.
Right.
You're a very special person, and you should be getting paid like a very special agent.
Right. Well, listen, we've used the word value a lot here today. It's, as an agent, buyer's agent, you got to show the value that you're offering
Fast.
Yeah, immediately. I mean, it's like,
Fast.
because you know that if they find you online, they're not just looking here. They probably have still within their computer setup, they probably have at least 4 or 5 of the windows, or even on their phone, other apps that are open, that they're creating, connections and relationships with many other agents. So you got to jump at it, and you got to be able to stand out.
Yeah, I've been in classes where there's a self-proclaimed leader or self-proclaimed coach or self-proclaimed guru who hasn't sold a home in 10 years.
Right.
And it's teaching agents how to handle, leads,
Right.
specifically online leads. And it makes me angry. It makes me chuckle at the same time, because they'll say things like, you just make sure when you get that call, the first question you got to ask them is, have you talked to a lender yet? I'm like, get the fuck out of here. You ask that question, you're going to get hung up on like 50% of the time.
Right.
So in one of the Facebook groups that has a bunch of people, someone asked, like, what's your script when you get an online lead? And, everybody's trying to get creative. Well, the first thing that I do is I try to empathize and figure out what part of the disc personality profile, like all this shit, And I'm like, my script is very simple. Is,
Right.
good afternoon. Are you available to see the house today or tomorrow? And people are like, but what if they're not pre-qualified? Then I went out and I saw a cool house and I got to meet them and make a connection. Maybe chances are, if someone is looking at homes today days, just like they're informed about homes, they're also informed about their credit.
Right.
They know how much money they make. Like, it happens very rarely. Like, I would say less than 20% of the time where I get a buyer who wants to look at a home that doesn't qualify for anything.
Right.
And so why wouldn't I put that investment of time to go out there and meet them? And
Sure.
listen, sometimes they don't qualify, but they qualify a year down the road. And guess what? The year down the road, you know who they remember?
Absolutely, you.
The guy that was willing to go out there and meet them and treat them like a human. So, that just speaks to the relevance of some of the training being given. Like, abundance of training doesn't constitute quality of training. Quality of training is given by people who have the pulse on the industry and have relevant things to say that are practical to today's market, not yesteryear's, Susie driving in the Cadillac with an MLS list on her hand. Let's talk a little bit about the book.
Sure.
What got you to write a book, man? This seems like a lot of work.
It's actually very easy. Let me tell you, because
you hire a couple of ghostwriters.
No. So over the years, through one of my biggest frustrations, going back to the word retention, where we would see that agents would come in, and all of a sudden, the way Florida works, they don't even have to notify their current broker that they're moving their license.
Oh yeah, you get to do the breakup without confronting it.
Yeah. So in other states, it's obviously very different. So I would get frustrated because I would find an agent would join us. I saw that there was some potential there, and they were definitely someone that we thought would really be able to take it to a whole new level. And then just nothing happens. And so we wanted to put together, a curriculum. And look, I didn't come up with all this stuff myself. It's just we take some good stuff from this person, some good stuff from this person, and we kind of put together what we thought was a good, call it, curriculum. And so we wanted, and we called it Do It Now. So we created basically a 3-day workshop. And day one was really just focused on, helping them understand really they have to build a foundation. And so a lot of folks would come in and they would think that right off the bat, I was going to get into talking about the real estate X and O's. And I was talking more about their personal lives, about themselves, about their needs, about how they, see themselves when they look in the mirror, about their mindset. I would really spend a whole lot of time helping them understand that some of the language that they would use, how it would affect, their state, and how that then carries over into their business. How it can either become something that would be, a positive momentum that now is going to be able to kind of be built and created that will now help them thrive, or it can pull them the other way. So day one was all about that, going over into mindset and helping them understand, really what are their goals? What's their purpose? I would love to ask the question, why are you in real estate? And agents would look at me, well, I'm here to make money. I'm like, no, that's not enough, right? There's got to be, you got to have something deep down inside that's really going to help you, that in the darkest of days, when you feel like, I always say peaks and valleys, when you're deep, when you're low in that valley, it's going to motivate you. It's going to get you going. It's going to get you to continue to keep moving forward. And so day one's all about that. And we have folks that would come in and they would cry and they would have like these aha moments. And it was a great experience because I saw that they were getting so much out of it. So that was day one. Day two was going into strategy. And it was helping them understand, look, do you want to be a buyer's agent? Do you want to be a listing agent? Right? How do you work with buyers? Right? How do you do a CMA? How do you go out there and how do you grow a database? Right? How do you prospect? What should you say? How do you develop rapport? That was a big thing. You talk about scripts. Look, there's some good scripts out there, but some folks get so tied into reading it line by line, and you sound like a freaking, like an automated, system.
Yeah, or they use one from 2007.
Yeah. And it was like, listen, be you, man, be real. One of the things that people have always said about me that they've liked is, look, I'm a real person. I always kind of joke, yeah, I'm just an average Joe, right? So create a relationship, develop rapport, right? And so we would go into that and help them understand that, how to be able to read somebody's body language so that you can make sure that you're developing that rapport and everything else. And then day three was always to me, the most interesting day because that was our day of taking action. So we would kind of get them warmed up, get them ready, kind of recap some of the material from the first couple days. And then we would go in and have them prospect to their database, to their sphere of influence, people that they know, family, community contacts, friends, past clients. So it was easier. It wasn't like they were, doing a complete cold call to somebody that had no idea who they were. And we kind of got them a little bit, get them more confident throughout that process. And we'd help them just develop leads, ask for referrals, and just say, look, here's a script. Use a little bit of that, kind of use some of the basis of really what is the purpose of the script, but add some of your own language. Like I used to joke and say, look, tell them that your broker's having a referral contest, right? And I am, right? Look, there's 30 of you here in the room today. Let's see who's going to generate the most amount of leads, right? Who can get the most amount of referrals. So those 3 days, basically, we called that our Do It Now program. So I basically took all that material, the entire curriculum, and I just basically turned it into a book.
Yeah, and I like the book. And by the way, something that you should know about me, I'm the quintessential like anti-motivational guy.
Right.
I like that's not me.
Right.
It just doesn't work for me. But I have read a ton of the real estate action books and the self-help books, and
Right.
most of them are like in and out. It doesn't register very well with me.
Right.
What I like about your book is that it's more of a workbook than a book. There
Sure.
was, if you follow along, if you're getting it with the intention to learn something and get better, and you follow along and you do the exercises, you start, finding sort of truth with it. There's a couple of things that really jumped out. In chapter 4, to me, one thing that was really interesting is when you said, "Who do you work for?"
Right.
And I like that was so powerful, because you ask 90% of people, who do you work for? And they're going to tell you who, their boss,
Right.
whoever's, their brokerage, their boss, whoever's directly above them. And you frame the premise on, no, man, you work for your family. You work for the people that you provide for, the people that are entrusted, you providing for them. And so I thought that was a very important mindset change that people should have, everyone in the industry. And one of the things that I noticed through reading the book is I can gain better perspective on why the agents within your company are there's something that's different about those guys. And what's different is there's culture within La Rosa.
Right.
But it's not a cult.
Right.
You are not asking your agents to place all their trust on you, all their money on you, to sort of like anyone that you endorse becomes all powerful. Like there's this mentality in a lot of real estate companies that the figurehead of the company is like this all powerful being that can do no wrong. And you know, it puts you in that mindset that you work for them, that you're trying not to disappoint those guys as opposed to your family. And so, you know, that gets into the next conversation, which is that why you're a workaholic? Like, is that why people become workaholics in this industry so easy? Because they think they're working for something different than what the purpose really is? Because if you identify your family and, you know, in my case, my family, my daughter, as the people that I work for, then I'm going to try to maximize my time with them.
Sure.
You know, be as productive as possible here so I can maximize the amount of time that I can spend with them.
Right.
So I like that a lot.
So look, you know, a few years ago, they asked me, I forget who it was exactly. I know we were in a sales meeting, or we were in a marketing meeting within my office, and we were getting ready for one of our upcoming trade shows. And they said, all right, Joe, so let's talk about how do we want to market La Rosa Realty? What words do you want to use? And I said, family, passion, growth. Just like that. I got to be honest with you, I did not think of it prior. It just literally was one of those like knee-jerk reactions. Because really how I feel, and I talk about it in the book as well, is that you got to have balance, right? You got to identify what is it that really is going to drive you. And so for me, just like what you said, it's my family, right? It's my wife, my kids, you know, my parents. So it's they have played such a huge role in my life and are still playing such a huge role that, you know, they're why I do what I do, you know. And of course now I've started to kind of create that bond and that, I mean, not to sound kind of corny, man, but really it's like the love and you know, admiration to the people who work around me, right? My core team at our corporate office, our, you know, top brokers within the company now, our top agents, and we really have created kind of like that family feel. I mean, you know, we do things together. We have, you know, we don't do your traditional like happy hour where everyone goes out and gets food and gets drunk. No, we do like amazing. We do community service together. You know, every year around Thanksgiving, you know, we feed, you know, as many families. I think last year we did 1,400 and something families across the state of Florida. So, you know, we do all these things now as a family, you know, and so that means the world to me. And then, of course, you know, passion, right? You got to love what you do. You got to be able to, you know, put that passion on display to show people how, you know, you're truly there for them. And then it's, you know, growth is the, you know, to me, probably one of the most important words too, because when you stop growing, you start dying, right? So we want to make sure that in life overall, not just in your business, but in your relationships with your spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, your kids, whoever, that you're growing that too as well. And so I talk about that a lot in the book too as well. You gotta have that balanced wheel, you know, because if not, then, you know, why are you doing what you're doing?
Yeah, you know, when you talk about that, one of the things that I always bring up is I struggled for a long time understanding the whole term of sort of work-life balance, because it always seemed like it just didn't make sense to me. And so I like studied it and I thought about it, and I call it now just life-work harmony. Right. The problem with calling it a life-work balance, and I see this in our industry so much, is that it creates this illusion that automatically it makes it into a seesaw, right? So the less work, the more quality of life you have, and the less quality of life, the more work that you have. And it just doesn't work that way.
Sure.
Because this stuff is like crossing paths oftentimes. So I think you identify meaning, which in my opinion, happiness is achieved through meaning. Once you figure out your meaning, you can get to that other thing that happiness is, but happiness doesn't exist on itself.
Right.
It's just identifying the meaning and living true to that meaning, and then be able to create an environment of harmony of those things. Mm-hmm. For some people, working 12 hours a day is happiness. And if you tell those people to work less to be happier, they're going to be less happy because they love their work. They absolutely, you know, and everybody's different. So,
sure.
So I really liked the way that it was framed. I really liked also when you talked, it was in chapter 5, and you were talking about the things that are important to you and just dissecting that whole thing down. And so I would just tell everybody, page 38 of the book, if you want to learn where La Rosa Realty is going from here, look at page 38. This mine is going to take over the world.
Thank you.
Joe, thank you so much for doing this. I hope we can do it again
For sure.
soon. This was a lot of fun. And please tell the people that are listening to this how they can reach out to one of your offices if they want to learn more about La Rosa Realty.
Sure, they can go to either larosarealty.com or they can go to joinlarosa.com too as well. I also have another website called joelarosa.com. So any one of those three sites, you can definitely find a way to get in contact with us, and love to have the opportunity to talk to you.
All right, very good. And the book, it is on Amazon right now. So if you haven't bought it, go ahead and do it. Do It Now by Joe La Rosa. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks.